early stages if he can, but for the moment Tim Bates is trying to stay with him, so it's quite hard to the car length between the pair of them. Right-hand element on Nelson. Nissan Skyline heads over the start-finish line, leading the race so quick in a straight line is that car. Tim Bates goes through in second place, 2.5 seconds adrift already in second place. Tony Blake in third, number 63, which is Jeff Beale there in fourth place. Trevor Taylor in fifth place, side by side again as the Porsche Turbo of Miles Maserati comes back at James Neal in a straight line and retakes the place again, albeit he's on the outside line heading around through Ritchie's, and James Neal might be able to sneak back through again, in fact has done on the exit of the corner. So they've swapped back and swapped back again, all within the course of half a lap, that pair of Porsche 911s. The 911 Turbo and now back behind the 964. And then problems, is that problems or a missed gear for the Mazda, I fear there? Yeah, Trevor Taylor has lost a couple of places coming out of the Wilson hairpin, the Mazda RX-7. It's still going, but it's allowed both of those Porsches, both the white Porsche of James Neal and the 911 Turbo of Miles Maserati through and by, and only now does he get the car back up to full speed, having lost 2 places, and he's almost fallen into the clutches of Paul Dolan's 3 Series BMW. So it must have been a missed gear coming out of the Wilson hairpin, I think, for the Mazda there. So out of Agostini, is he slow out of that corner as well? He is, yes, slow again coming out of the corner. The rotary engined Mazda, turbocharged as well, but again slow coming out of the slower corners. Paul Dolan has gone by. Is Adam Brown going to get through on the exit of Oggies, I wonder? Let's just have a quick look. It's coming out of the corner where Trevor Taylor seems to have the issue. Yeah, and again coming out of the corner, just so slow going out. Makes me wonder if he's got a gearbox issue with that car. It's missing the gear already. Struggle round on his own. The racing already Nelson, the leading pair, really having stretched their legs. Tony Blake, who still sits there in third place. Jeff Beale in fourth. In fact, the front 4 cars really haven't got quite strung out in the early stages of this one. Big old gaps between them all as they turn for the second time around the corner, braking area. Just over the last line through. Tim Bates had a couple of seconds in hand between himself and Tony Blake's number 1 Porsche through as well. Chilton, minutes 12.915 first on the flying lap, gives you the fastest lap of the race. And they're on 5.8 seconds ahead of Tim Bates in second position. It was a further 4.5 seconds up the road from Tony Blake in third, who is 3.5 seconds up the road from Jeff Beale in fourth place. James Neal now safely in fifth place, has dispensed with the aspirations of Miles Maserati, who slipped into sixth. Paul Dolan comes through in seventh, Adam Brown in eighth, and now down 4 positions on that lap for Trevor Taylor, who at the wheel of the Mazda is attacking the Astra again as they head up towards Ritchie's and has made it through, I think, on the way into the corner. Yeah, another place gained. Having just lost 4, he's at least grabbed 1 back. But it's coming out of the Wilson hairpin. I want to keep an eye on that Mazda again as it heads out of Wilson, because it was so slow coming out of the corner last time, and it's the slow corners where it seems to struggle a little bit. And no, all seems okay this time through, so no no need for concern, I don't think, with that car. Just having a quick look just to see whether I'd seen something out of the corner of my eye, but indeed I hadn't. So through onto the infield section go the leading quartet of cars. Even 5th place now is looking a little strung out, as is 6th place Miles Maserati. You have to look back to sort of 7th, 8th and 9th really to find the best of the battles, and it's Paul Dolan's BMW, the Trevor Taylor Mazda RX-7, Adam Brown's Vauxhall Astra GTE, and trying to latch onto the back of them is another Porsche. It's the bright yellow Porsche of Raspberry, which is Stuart Jeffcoat. That's just turning its way out of Oggies now, that little battle. Another 3 positions on that lap, so the car that started 4 is now down into 12th position, I'm afraid to say. And that's really out. 2 of them finish line. So the gap first to second, after just 3 laps of racing, is 12.34 seconds. Still there in third place, Jeff Beale in fourth. James Neal in fifth position. Miles Maserati's red Porsche completing the top 6. Off the battles for 7th, 8th and 9th. Well, Paul Dolan comes through in 7th, Adam Brown in 8th, Stuart Jeffcoat in 9th, and all of a sudden the Mazda is again dropping down through the order and hasn't as yet appeared. Coming over the start finish line, here he comes now. It's just going in towards Murray's, and that means that is a raft of places lost again on that lap for the Mazda. It seems to have a good lap and then have an off lap again, I'm afraid. So what's that, 6, 7, 8, 9 places probably it's lost over the course of that lap. Through it comes now. Sounds fine, but yet 9 places lost. It's now dropped down to 18th position. Car that finished 3rd at Thruxton when it was in the hands of Alex Taylor driving solo and qualified in 9th position for this race. So the best of the fights is still 7th and 8th at the moment. Paul Dolan doing good things at the wheel of the number 16 all-white BMW, the 325i, the E30 variant of it. Has got John Hammersley, sorry, it is John Hammersley that started that. I can't keep referring to it as Adam Brown, but it's John Hammersley that started. Sitting behind him in 8th position. Where's Stuart Jeffcoat? He's a little bit adrift of that in 9th place, but he's got Robin Gray's Pontiac Trans Am then, and the Martin Ellis driven.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned this, Mark, but Ricky Cam was not on the grid, was he?
No, he wasn't. No, we weren't expecting him to be on the grid because he's moved to the Special Saloons Motorsport.
Yeah, that's great. Just wanted to talk about that. And also the car of Martin Reynolds as well was not there. I don't know if you got the story about that one.
No, I didn't. Do tell.
He was meant to be out in, was it the Mach 1?
He's meant to be out in the Mach 1. He broke that yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And then he came out, he had a 60s class standing by, but then that had problems as well, so he's gone completely from the weekend, unfortunately. So he had a spare car, and that wasn't good enough either. So Martin Reynolds not out in this race.
Oh, it sounds like a frustrating and an expensive weekend, I'm afraid, for Martin Reynolds. Robin Gray comes back at Stuart Jeffcoat's yellow Porsche in a straight line, but the Pontiac will have to get on the brakes earlier for Richie, so Stuart Jeffcoat tries to come straight back at him, but the door was pretty much unceremoniously slammed in the face there of Stuart Jeffcoat. Robin Gray was having none of it, just having acquired 9th position, and hangs on to it as well. Whether he'll hang on to it by the time they get to the Wilson hairpin, I would very much doubt. In fact, no, Stuart Jeffcoat's taken it back. Tried to get the place back at Richie's, didn't quite, but now has got the place back by the time they've got towards the Wilson hairpin, because the big, heavy, somewhat lumbering Pontiac Trans Am of Robin Gray is not quite as nimble as the rear-ending Porsche of Stuart Jeffcoat. So they have shuffled the order. He's actually pulled away. A black roofed car that was trying to come back at Stuart Jeffcoat, and that was actually Martin Ellis at the wheel of the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus. Difficult to tell when all you can see is the roofs of the car and the Armco barriers. Last time through, our race leader, Martin Chilton, seconds is the advantage that has been built up by Mark Chilton. It isn't surprising that he's pulled away to that degree, because he did qualify almost 2.25 seconds quicker than anybody else managed over the course. Again, that's affects the future record to qualifying session. Through goes Mark Chilton, completed a lap where surely the gap will have stretched. That's a 2-minute 9.7 lap from him. Everybody else will be lapping about 2 minutes 14, so should allow the tune of maybe 5 or 6 seconds in that the time that he popped in that time through. Tim Bates still staying out. Pit window is now open. Still the best part of 3.1 seconds slower than the race leader. 8 seconds off that is Tony Blake in 3rd position. Jeff Beale goes through it at a further 6.8 seconds off him in 4th place. James Neal going well. Nice to see James Neal hardly back in the series. Having been on time, competitors in it. They're there in 5th place. Safely through in 6th is going to be Miles Thomas is in, and it's the man who had been running in 7th position, Paul Dolan, heads for the pit lane for the wheel of his BMW, the first of the pit stoppers. They're driving solo, no driver change to take place, so it's just a case of waiting patiently for the clock to tick, I suppose. So that's going to drop him down through the order, and for the moment, I think he's rolled the dice and opted to pit nice and early on in this session. So 27.5 minutes. The race leader is already safely Nelson and heading up towards the bomb hole. It'll be nearly a 20-second advantage that Mark Chilton has over Tim Bates, which, looking at the pace that he's got in the early stages of the race, you gain a 30-second penalty if you win. Such is his pace after the first 13 minutes of the race, where he's built up almost a 20-second advantage. He can afford to win, because next time he's still got the pace. Not all of them, but most of them, you hang yourself a 30-second penalty for the rest of the season, and if you're fortunate and have the pace to win again, you get another 30 seconds, 60-second penalty. Chilton, 6 laps completed. Wait the arrival of Tim Bates, who dives for the pit lane. So second place car heads to the pit lane this time through. We've also had in number 54 as well. I think it's the first of the driver changes. Tim Bates
yeah, indeed, Mark. You just said the two BMWs are the first two in, so that's going to be a driver change between Tim Bentley to hand over to Michael Kidson. The other one is on its way, number 16. So back onto the track goes Paul Dolan, and Tim Bates, as you mentioned, from second place into the pit lane. He's got nothing to do apart from sit there, have a quick sip of water, and of course he's got to get back out within the space of 2 minutes. That's the pit in to pit out time. Just having a quick chat to one of his team members. It feels quite hot actually. It's not a hot day compared to what we have had, but of course these cars will be hot inside that, pushing out a lot of hot air at the same time as well. So Tim Bates just resting for a minute, just checking things over, just having a quick chat to the team, and probably having a gauge of how far up the road the race leader Mark Chilton is. So he'll try and claw that down a little bit later on. Also into the pits while we've been talking has now come the 156 machine, so that's a driver change as well between John Hammersley and Adam Brown's going to jump into that one. And also by the looks of it, number 63, Jeff Bill, has pulled in as well. Here's another solo driver, so not too much for him to do apart from sit there in the car. And in behind us, behind the Porsche, is also the number 69 machine, so that's going to be another driver who just sits there, Robin Gray in the mighty Pontiac. Sounds and looks very good indeed. That'll be on his way very shortly. But yeah, it's fairly calm at the minute, Mark, as 5 or 6 cars have made their way in.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, the Pontiac painted like Smokey the Bandit colours as well, so a livery there. I also noticed you've got the Mazda in as well, so I might usher Matt Suckling in the general direction of Trevor Taylor to establish, was there a problem? Because that car, just out the slow corners, seemed to be really slow. Maybe there's a gearbox issue. Then there's one lap where he lost 9 places. Nearly a 30-second advantage he got before he even completed that lap, so it will have grown ever more drivers suited and booted and ready to go. Tim Bates, who was running second, has now completed his mandatory pit stop, so back out into the race goes. Lights go on and then go off again. Out goes Jeff Beale. Clock waiting to tick for the Astra to go out. It's being ushered out, but it's not going anywhere at the moment. And there we go. I heard the Astra spring into life then. And back out onto the track will go Adam Brown. 4 minutes and 22 seconds. No, so that's about 2-minute pit stop. Yeah, pit in to pit out, so timed correctly. So back out goes the Vauxhall Astra, back out goes the Pontiac, which means that other than the Mazda, the pit lane is fairly clear at the moment. The Mazda rejoins the race. So idea is that the Mazda lost time, and is there an issue with it? So Mark Chilton leads at this stage. The number 1 Porsche has been out to the second. The Porsche of James Neal to the third. The 22. The red 911 Turbo of Miles Maserati comes up into 4th place. Martin Ellis, number 4, the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, is now up into 5th place. The yellow Jeffco into the top 6. One of those have conducted their mandatory pit stops as yet. The leading car that will have pitted is down in 17th position, car number 12, which is the Porsche of Tim Bates. Tom Reed also the pit lane this time through, so he brings the BMW 1600 pit lane, 32 seconds he was leading by, which is more than enough time to do what they need to do, man.
Yeah, certainly is. So Mark Chilton comes in, as you mentioned. Just had a quick word with Trevor Taylor. You mentioned the Mazda may have had some problems in the early stages of that race. Had a quick chat with Trevor. He said, yeah, I had a blooming spin coming onto the back straight. So Trevor lost those places. He had to wait for a gap in the traffic, so that's the reason he dropped those places. But apart from that, everything looking good with that car, and we'll see what Alex can do in the second part of the race, of course. The extra 30 seconds as well, so it seemed like a lifetime that car was sitting here, but Alex, I'm sure, will try and make some time up as he heads back out. Also, we've got the race leader in, and the bonnet is just being lifted up. I don't think there's any major problems. I just think it's so hot in that car, and it's being pushed so hard by Mark Chilton. He's just trying to get a bit of air, but it is smoking from the left-hand side, so hopefully there's no major problems. Just have a look. I think it's the brakes that have been worked hard. The exhaust is with a bit of smoke as well. So yeah, Mark Chilton might have to just kind of back off a little bit in the second part of the race, but he's got a good enough lead as it stands for now. Also into the pit lane has come number 1, so Tony Blake to hand over to Aston Blake very shortly, joined by another Porsche as well. The number 92 machine makes his way down pit lane, so that'll head to the end. That's Miles Maserati, and who else have we got in as well? I think we've got one of the older BMWs there, number 5. That's Tom Peed, and yeah, more and more now starting to come in, so it's getting a little bit busier down here. And to add to that, number 4 makes his way down the pit lane. That's going to be one of those starting towards the head of the field at the beginning of this race. Martin Ellis to hand the car over to Matt very shortly. But the race leader, that was Mark Chilton, still sits here at the minute.
I can see Stuart Jeffcoat has made his way into the pit lane as well. We've also got in number 11, which is James Neal, to give way to Neil Harvey. That was another one that was at the sharp end of the order. Have now pitted, so at the moment it's 47 Ryan Moan that has picked up the lead of the race. Up to second has now come car number 74, so it's a Porsche 1-2 at the moment. The 944s is Will Dingle that is up into second, and Mark Chilton, despite having done his pit stop, is running third overall in the race. So we've had almost half the race now, 20 minutes of the race will remain. A few more dive for the pit lane. I can see the Saab is coming in, which is Stephen Field, to hand over to Nigel Baker, and we've also got the black and gold BMW coming in, which will be Michael Wright at the wheel of number 25, to hand over to Liam, I think that will be. So that is more pit stops taking place. The number 1 Porsche that's now safely in the hands of Aston Blake, heading out onto track. Aston, the son of Tony Blake, who has just vacated that car, the quicker of the two, accelerates his way out of the pit lane exit. See that car back in third position, out on the track ahead of Jeff Field's Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, which makes sense because that would put them in the same order as they were before they entered the pit lane. Out goes the number 11 Porsche now in the hands of Neil Harvey, followed by Miles Maserati driving solo this weekend. From Piers, but Piers is away holidaying in France at the moment. He's on about day 5 of his holiday, but of course was notified yesterday. Yeah, he'll have to quarantine for 14 days when he gets back. That's why Miles is driving solo. Jeff goes a little bit slow getting out of pit lane, I'm afraid, which means that he will rejoin ahead of the number 4 Talbot Sunbeam Lotus of Matthew. See, that will be Chris Smith giving way to Josh Smith. We've also got Matthew Wyans in at the wheel of his E21 BMW. That will be handed over to James Severs in one of the races tomorrow. That's I. Last few little pit stoppers trickling in. Will Dingle to give way to James Dingle. Not that many more now that haven't pitted. So for the race lead at the moment, it's number 47 Ryan Moan, 28 seconds up the road from Mark Chilton, but Ryan Moan has not completed a pit stop as yet. pit lane, conducting its mandatory pit stop at the moment. The car that's fourth is also showing us in the pit lane as well, which is Robin Claydon, the 944, the all white car, given way to Jason Andrews. Now pitted, but it's going to take another few laps before the order fully cycles its way through. Before the pit stops started, Mark Chilton, number 79, and Nissan led from Tim Bates, number 12 Porsche, in second place. Then the number 1 Porsche of Aston Blake, as it will be now, in third place, and Jeff Beale in fourth. And that is, by the look of things, going to be the order once Brian Moan decides he's going to dive for the pit lane. I would have thought. He's just heading up towards the bomb hole, I think now, Ryan Moan. How long has he got before the pit window closes? The answer is another minute and 50 seconds, so there's not another lap time for Ryan Moan. He's got to come into the pit lane, the race leader, this time through. Otherwise, next time he comes around, he will be pitting outside the pit stop window. Number 47 car exits Murray's. Should flick an indicator on or turn right at pit lane entry, and if he does, he's timed it to perfection, and indeed he does. Yep, so Ryan Moan heads into the pit lane, number 47, vacates the race, back over, rightfully so, you could argue, to number 79, Mark Chilton, who was leading before the pit window opened. So that's now everybody either conducting, having conducted, their managers. So, Mark Chilton on my timing screen, but in reality back into the race. So Mark Chilton goes up to the top of the times and is now leading the race. He's not eased his pace too much either. 2 minutes 9.0 is the lap that he's just done. Well, the 2 minutes 8.8 is the best lap of the race. Lap, so he's only circulating 1 tenth and a half off his best lap of the race so far. It's the lead advantage between himself and Tim Bates. Well, Mark Chilton is already round a Palmer. Over the start finish line now comes Tim Bates in second place, 28.8 seconds adrift. Tim Bates in second place should be Aston Blake. He's now running his way up with 1 Porsche out of Murray's, so he will be in third. Jeff Beale's Talbot Sunbeam Lotus number 63 will now reassert itself back into fourth position with 15 minutes to go in this race. And then Jeff Beale fourth place, fifth place should be. Is that going to be Miles Maserati? Yeah, it will be Miles Maserati that's now up into 5th place because he's got himself ahead of Neil Harvey over the course of the last lap since they pitted. They came out of the pit stops the opposite way around, but the red 911 Turbo, number 92, Miles Maserati, now up into 5th place, down to 6th. Has gone the 964 of James Harvey. Adam Brown's Vauxhall Astra Mark 1 should be the next one through in 8th place. Grace Pontiac in 9th. Matthew Ellis, who's now got himself ahead of Pontiac. Brian Moan feeds back out off pit lane, but he's still trying to get up to speed, whereas Matthew Ellis is at full speed at the wheel of the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, and by the time they get towards Ritchie's, Ryan Moan is just about going to hang on to 8th place on the way into Ritchie's. Hasn't got the momentum on the way out though, and I think Matthew Ellis will pick him off on the run towards Wilson, and indeed he does. End. Other than that, I'm afraid they're all rather strung out. As for the Mazda, its best lap of the race, and that's a car that's going to be well worth watching, I would say. James Dingle. The lap time the Mazda put in, a 2 minute 10. The lap time the Porsche put in, a 2 minute 29. And at the moment, that's in the race, the RX7. But it is quicker. Everybody ahead of it from the battle race leader. In second place, Tim Bates is circulating in 2 minute 12s, which is about 2 seconds slower than Mazda. So, interesting to see exactly what happens there. So, 16 to 14. also had, having had problems in qualifying, which meant that he actually started 35th on the grid, third position. I'm afraid into the pit lane has come the Saab, so there's news to be had there as to what has brought Nigel Baker back into the pit lane.